Can you see this? Okay. Just them. Okay, awesome. Okay, so sellers class. I feel like most of the time people do buyers classes, and right now it's even more complicated to be a seller in this market and have to sell a home and then purchase your next one. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the process, and then Erin, towards the end, we'll jump in and talk about like creative lending solutions to kind of bridge that gap. So my name is Sophia. I'm a real estate agent licensed in Oregon. My background's in interior design and marketing, an MBA, 2 kids, and I live in Northeast Portland. Erin, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yes. Oh, thanks. You made me a slide.
I did. Yeah.
Yes, I am Erin Walsh. I am a mortgage banker, mortgage broker, loan officer. Basically, I help you get the money if you want to buy a house. I am born and raised in Oregon. It seems like I might be one of the handful of people who are actually like born and raised here. I do have 2 kiddos, a 13-year-old son, almost 14-year-old son. He's upstairs playing basketball in his bedroom. So if you hear thumps, that's what that is. And then I have an 11-year-old daughter. Yeah, and I have been in the lending industry for, it's almost 22 years now. So I have a lot of creative solutions to sort of think outside the box.
That's awesome. I will say you're like my phone a friend whenever I have issues with mortgage stuff. So thank you.
Well, I'm happy to be a resource.
Yeah. Okay, so market snapshot. Everyone knows that home prices are going up and have been going up, but average sale price right now is $582,900. And closed sales, and this is December too, are a little over 2,500, pending sales over 1,900, new listings around 1,600, and we have 0.6 months of inventory. And that just means that can be kind of a confusing figure if you're not familiar with it, but it's a measure of how fast all the existing homes on the market would last, assuming 1, no more listings are added, and 2, the rate at which homes sell is a constant figure based on the average of the last 12 months of sales. So that's a really low number, which can be daunting when you're purchasing a home, especially if you have to sell a home too. Average days on market for Portland Metro is 32. So one of the first things we do when we start talking about listing a property is look at a competitive market analysis. And this is basically looking at comps in your area that have sold within the past 6 to 12 months. Ideally, you're looking at 6 months, but sometimes depending on the home and the style, you might have to go back closer to a year. So we're comparing bedrooms, bathrooms, upgrades, square footage, lot size. And then I kind of do it in 2 parts. So I'll do the initial CMA, bring it to my listing appointment. And then once I'm able to kind of look through the house and get a feel for any upgrades or things that might kind of set it apart, then I will refine the CMA and present a final CMA to clients. And typically we're really only looking at homes that have sold because that pricing is final. If you're looking at pending or homes that are on the market, those can either skew it down if there are homes that are sitting and are overpriced, or it can also skew it low. So especially in this situation right now, we're just seeing things go for quite a bit more than what they're listed at. The other thing that I'll take a look at is this market trend report, and this is through RMLS, but this is really neighborhood specific and looks at inventory by month, average sales price by month, average sold price, percent change, days on market by month, and then sales by month. So this can be a good tool when you're trying to figure out like what month to list your property. Yeah, just looking at the past history, basically. This is a long pre-listing checklist. I bolded things that I think that the homeowners really take on, and then it's sort of a joint effort for everything on here. And stop me, Colby, if you have questions or anything as I go along. But yeah, so obviously the first step is to meet in person and tour the home, and that's when I'll bring a CMA. So in that meeting, we're going through the home, touring it, discussing like next home and purchase options, and then reviewing comps and discussing pricing. After that meeting, I usually order a net sheet from escrow, and that basically shows where you net out if you sold your home for certain prices. During that meeting too, I'll go through and take pictures of people's houses room by room, and then go home and develop staging notes. So it's kind of nice because it's a visual checklist for people where I'll include lists of items that need to be updated, replaced, repaired. And you can kind of see in this, I'll go into it in this next slide, but I just draw lines of things like remove this, I'll bring pillows for this, paint this wall, that sort of thing. And it's really looking at it from a styling lens and looking at it from what it's going to look like in photos to make sure that we capture the best photos possible for marketing. Some other things that often come up: strapping water heaters, installing smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, replacing light bulbs, cleaning carpets, having furnace serviced, repairing any leaks on the roof or in plumbing. And then just some other kind of small aesthetic tweaks that help are making sure that all the light switch covers are the same size, making sure that all the switches and all of the outlets are the same color, ensuring the front door lock is easy to use. That can be a pain when people are coming in and out. Patching paint as necessary, replacing boob lights. I don't know if anyone's familiar with those, but that's my term for them. And then all the suggestions are called out in the staging notes provided to the client. And I also have some really cost-effective lighting options that I'll often include in there if you have boob lights or you have other chandeliers or lighting fixtures that maybe aren't of current style. And then once we have that meeting, we start to look at other homes to purchase just to make sure that there's things that are interesting and that are in your price point that you feel like would be a good next step. Because obviously, if there aren't things that are of interest, or your price point isn't what you want, then we don't want you selling your house. And then after that kind of initial getting the house ready, we do staging, cleaning, landscaping. There's something called an energy score, which is required in Multnomah County. So I have that ordered. And it's really just an audit of the house. And then they come up with a score based on things like windows, insulation, sort of the energy efficiency of the home. And then we do photography, and that also includes floor plans and Matterport, which is that like 3D tour that you see in on Redfin or Zillow. And that's super helpful, especially now when people aren't necessarily venturing into the house first, they're looking online. Video comes next. And then we do the house description written and then shared with the client to edit and add. Marketing collateral is created and printed, the signs installed. And then we really wait till like 1 to 2 weeks before listing to finalize pricing, just because it can jump up, and we want to make sure that it's accurate going in. Teasing on social media, blog posts, publish house to RMLS. And right now, what a lot of buyers are doing if they sellers, when they occupy the home, is that we'll list on like a Thursday, and then they'll take the weekend away. So they'll leave Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if it's priced right, by Sunday, you should have an idea of how many offers are coming in. So people will come back into the home either Sunday, Monday, and then accept an offer probably on Monday. So you're only really spending that weekend away, which is nice. And let's see here. So publishing house to RMLS. Hi, Archie. Hi. My husband has failed the child duty. Emails to brokers. So there's a just listed email that goes out to brokers in the Portland metro area. And then a standalone site is published for the house.
Hey, Mom. Are you talking to you?
So sorry.
That's okay. And then mailers are delivered to the neighborhood to market to neighbors and other folks that kind of live in the area to make sure that they know that the house is on the market so they can share it with their network of people. Digital advertising, and then open houses, and that's obviously COVID dependent. Depending on the situation, there's other things that float in this whole checklist, but this is kind of your like brass tacks. These are an example of staging notes. So after the initial visit, this is what's provided to the client. And I personally do provide both vacant staging and supplemental staging for occupied homes. Just because I think it just looks so much better in photos. And then also buyers are willing to pay 1 to 5% more of the dollar value on a staged home than a non-staged home. I actually think that might be higher, but this is kind of an example of the notes that you'll get. So like remove artwork, Sophia to bring pillows, Sophia to bring rug, leave wall-mounted wall organization, blah, blah, blah. But it's basically helping people just kind of declutter prior to photos. Because a lot of times when we live with that stuff, it's really hard to notice that what we live with in photos might appear as being too much stuff. Marketing and COVID. So this is just kind of a timing example of everything, and I won't read through this, but essentially I can move as fast or as slow as someone wants to list their home, but ideally you're giving us about, 2.5 weeks to get photos and get the house all ready to go. I've done it within days too, so it's doable. It's just ideal to have a little bit more time. Listing contract and disclosures. So once you found your agent, you'll have to sign a listing contract, and some agents bring this to the initial meeting. I don't usually do that, which I'm sure some coaches would scold me for, but the listing contract will include either the price or a range. It will include the listing date or the date that the marketing is to begin, the time you're in contract with the agent, and what happens to the earnest money, assuming it's forfeited in a sale fail. Sometimes agents can take a portion of the earnest money. In my situation, I always default to allowing the seller to have all of the earnest money in the event of a sale failure. So the other thing that's required from sellers, for the most part, unless you have never lived in your home, but are disclosures. And that's about a 6-page document, depending on if there are a number of issues with your house that you have to go through and just answer so that the buyer knows, if there are any roof leaks, if there are any other issues with the house that you know about, even if they have been repaired, just so they have a heads up. And then we want to be sure to submit those disclosures to the buyer pretty quickly, because if they aren't sent to buyers, it does provide a way out for termination past like certain contingency periods. Terms that you'll want to see in an offer, 2 to 3% in earnest money is attractive in multiple offer situations. And sometimes you'll see this either the whole thing released early or a portion of it released early. You want a strong down payment, typically, shortening inspection times or waiving inspections altogether, as is offers. So buyers can still do inspections, but they won't ask for any repairs or credits. They can also say they will limit repairs or credits to a certain dollar amount. It's important to note that this term isn't binding. So someone can say, I'm going to take the house as is, but they can always come back if they haven't waived inspections and say, oh, actually, we didn't know the sewer was going to be messed up and we want, $5,000 or whatever that number is. Quick close is appealing. Cash buyers can usually close in 2 weeks. Conventional loans is like 30 days or so. Appraisal waiver. This is another reason why people love cash, is just because they don't have to worry about a low appraisal. But in the event that your house does get bid up by you know, say $100,000, you want to make sure that someone has cash to cover any sort of low appraisal, or at least hopefully meet you in the middle or something. You don't want to have to reduce a price after taking their offer. And that's all a negotiation too. Rent back is another term that's really helpful for sellers right now. And that just allows you to stay in your home basically for a certain period of time so that you can then find your next home. And then you want to just make sure that you're removing lighting or washers, dryers, or anything that you want to keep that's personal property. That's very clear from the get-go, because that can be written in and used as a way to sweeten a buyer's offer. Buyer's inspection. So common inspections done right now are general home inspection, radon, sewer scope, and tank locate. Prices, repairs are often foundation, roof, sewer, and tanks that haven't been properly decommissioned. And then the most common issues that we're really seeing are like radon, which a mitigation system is probably $1,500 to $2,000. Drainage, mold, pest, electrical. And when I say electrical, I'm talking like GFCI switches that aren't, you know, wired properly, things that can be easily switched. I'm not talking like knob and tube. So the inspector's job is to call out everything that they potentially find to be wrong with the home. Typically the reports are, you know, 30, 40, I've seen more pages, and include photos, sometimes videos. And sellers can request the inspection report after they're done, but if that sale fails for some reason, they'll have to disclose those findings to the next buyers. So a lot of times what we'll do is say, okay, you're asking for XYZ. Can you send us screenshots of those specific pages so that you're not inheriting the entire report? And then common things that need to be done prior to appraisal are strapping water heaters, updating smoke and carbon monoxide detectors that are older than 10 years. Those will come up in an appraisal if they aren't done properly. So my bridging the gap is a lot less fancy than Erin's. The way that I can do it are all offers are contingent on the seller finding another property, which isn't very attractive to buyers wanting to buy your house. Rent back, so buyers allowing the seller to stay for a period of time. If it's a conventional loan, I think the maximum is 60 days. Otherwise, it's considered an investment property, and that would mess with the loan. And then this last one is just writing contingent on the purchase of a property. So if you haven't sold your home yet and you need to do so in order to buy another one, we can write contingent on this next purchase. But when it's competitive, that's hard to get accepted for the majority of sales. So Erin, I am going to let you take it over on how to bridge the gap with lending.
Awesome. Is it going to let me share? Will you enable it so that I can share?
Yes. I will attempt to. I
Yes.
think you can just take it over.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing. I think you have to go down to.
Oh, here we go.
You got it?
I think so.
Yep. Okay. So. Okay. So let's just start this from the beginning.
Sophia, can I ask you a quick question while we're getting this up and running?
Yeah.
Are you finding just, you know, with a lot of industries, obviously there's supply chain backup. And in this industry, do you find that even getting, you know, if there's work that needs to be done on the home, are you finding that there is, you know, dependent upon obviously the trade, that there are people that are readily willing and able to get the repairs done?
No, it's definitely affected like contractor, both pricing and timing. So right now, a lot of times what sellers are doing are asking for people to request credits versus repairs. Yeah. And so that just means that those credits then go towards your closing costs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I have two screens rolling here, it's not letting me do the nice, like pretty presentation, but this is fine because you can still see what we're talking about. So I have just a couple tips and tricks to basically help you be able to potentially buy a new home before you sell your old home. So that's going to require that, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces. And so it's important that you either work with me or work with a loan officer to really nail down what your goals are and what the timeline is and what's important to you, to make a strategy to kind of make this work, because it can be pretty stressful to try and sell your home and buy another home at the same time. So there are a couple of different strategies here. Basically, I should say there are many strategies. Really, there's probably an infinite number of possibilities that you can use, but I've kind of narrowed them down into 4 because we don't have time for infinity solutions tonight. So small down payment, gift funds, loans on a retirement, or a cross-collateral loan, which is also known as a bridge loan. So we'll start with a small down payment. Most people sort of assume that if they have a bunch of equity in their current home, that they're going to need to use all that money as a down payment on a new home. But what we can do is maybe take a smaller down payment on the new home. So maybe you have money in savings accounts, and you use that money to do a small down payment on the new home. And then when you close on the new home, you list and sell your old home. And then you use the proceeds of that sale to then pay down the mortgage that you've just gotten on the new home. Now, normally with a mortgage, if you make a big principal reduction payment or just pay a little bit extra every month, your next month's payment is still going to be the same, right? Like with a credit card, you pay it down every month and your payment goes down. Car loans, mortgage loans, you make a lump sum reduction on your principal balance, you're still going to have to pay that same payment. So with this strategy, we do something called re-amortization, which basically means you take the proceeds of the sale and you put that immediately toward the mortgage balance on your new mortgage. And then you take whatever that reduced balance is and you re-amortize that over the remaining term of the loan, which means you get that lower payment. You're not making the higher payment that you would have if you only started with a small down payment. And that's something that I can just kind of walk you through the steps. It's a fairly simple process, but it can be a little, there's just a lot of paperwork involved. So that's something that I would sort of walk you through the process when we get to that point. If you don't have
Can I
enough
ask
money,
a question just really quick?
of course, yeah.
On the small down payment, what's considered like the smallest you could go? Or
Thank you. That's a good question. So the smallest down payment you can do under most circumstances, not every circumstance, every situation is a little bit differently, but generally speaking, the smallest down payment that you can do is 3%. So 3% of the purchase price of your new home is going to be used towards your down payment. So if you're buying a $600,000 home, a 3% down payment is $18,000. So if you have $18,000 in your savings account, awesome, we can just do that. If you don't, that's a good segue. You can get gift funds from a family member. So basically, if you have a wealthy and generous family member who is willing to give you some money to use towards your down payment, you can use that for that minimum down payment, or you could even choose, any amount of down payment. The gift donor will sign a gift letter that states that they are giving you X number of dollars and they do not expect that you will repay them. So that's sort of a tricky little thing, because they're going to have to feel comfortable signing that letter. Now, when you sell your house and you have those proceeds in your bank account, you can do whatever you want with that money. So if you decide that you want to invest it in the stock market or go on a great vacation or maybe pay back a relative, you can definitely do that, but the donor will need to sign that letter up front. Also, the gift donor does need to understand that in certain cases, there are gift tax implications. The IRS has a certain annual limit. I think it's like $24,000, but they also have a lifetime exemption of $11 million. So if your family member is not going to donate $11 million over the course of their life in gifts, then they're probably going to be okay. That's definitely something that they want to talk to their CPA about. I am not a CPA. I know just enough to get myself in trouble. So definitely make sure that whoever is the gift donor talks to a CPA just to, make sure that everything is okay. But basically, this is going to kind of follow that same path of the small down payment where you get the gift funds, use that as your down payment, and then you are able to list your home, sell your home, and then use the proceeds of that sale to do whatever you want. The next option is just another strategy, kind of in that same coming up with the down payment. You many times, if you have a 401k, you are eligible to take a loan against that 401k for the purchase of a primary residence. Every 401k company that I have come across seems to be a little different. I don't know if those are individual institution guidelines or if they have something to do with IRS guidelines, but it's really important that you don't take my word for it, that you reach out to the 401k company that you have invested your funds with and see what the options are for you. I know that I took a loan to buy a primary residence off of my 401k. It was the easiest thing. I logged in there, I typed in my request, what I was using it for. They sent me the money within, I think, 3 business days. So it's a very simple process, but you do want to start that well in advance of kind of really digging into this selling and buying process, because if that's the route that you're going to go, you want to make sure that those funds are actually going to be available to you when you want them and the manner in which would be useful to you. So both of these 3 options do require that you are able to qualify for both the new loan and your existing loan. Truly, many times I find that that is not too much of an issue for folks. Truly, the issue often, the sort of the stumbling block or the roadblock to being able to buy a home before you sell a home is just coming up with the money for down payment. And again, there's lots of different strategies. These are just 3, but you would need to be able to qualify with both your existing mortgage payment and your new mortgage payment. But again, I would say probably 8 times out of 10, we're able to make the numbers work so that you are able to, qualify with both mortgages. Then of course you buy the new home and then go back, sell the old one, pay off that mortgage. So you're back down to that 1 mortgage payment, because you probably don't want to. You can also talk about renting. I'm going a little off topic here. I don't have a slide for renting, but let's say you have a really great starter home and you know that that's going to be a great rental property. You could use one of these strategies to get money for the down payment for your new primary residence, turn your existing home into a rental, and then rent it out to somebody else. There's a couple other things but that is an option if you are able to sort of support both payments on an ongoing basis. So the last option here is called a cross-collateral loan. Most people refer to it as a bridge loan, but in this case, it is actually truly a cross-collateral. So you are using one mortgage that covers 2 properties. So you have pay off the mortgage on your old property or your current home, and you use that same mortgage to buy the new home. It sounds more complicated than it is. There's a formula that we use. I'll show you in just a second how we can calculate what your loan amount is. The great thing about this program is you don't have to sell your house right away. You can really take your time to find your new home and sell your own home. There's the time is not the issue. Another great thing about this product is it has really great low interest rates. There is a little bit of an addition to the interest rate at the beginning, but once you have sold the old home and paid down the mortgage, that interest rate reduces. So it is a really great option. The downside, as you can see, is that it has high fees. The bank that's giving you this money is basically saying, hey, we'll give you a whole bunch of money for a really short period of time. And as most people understand, banks are able to be profitable because they charge interest, and then their consumers pay interest, and that's how they make their money and stay in business. If your loan is not going to be around for very long, or you're going to significantly reduce the balance on that loan, the bank just doesn't have enough time to make the interest on that money to make it profitable for them to lend it. So they do charge upfront fees. The program is great. It's wonderful. It's easy to use, but you do have to go into it sort of knowing that the upfront fees there will definitely be more than you would find on a traditional loan. For a lot of people, it's an easy trade-off to make, and they're totally fine with it. For other people, it's just not worth it, and we come up with a different strategy. So to calculate the value of how much money you can borrow, you fill out this form. So you don't fill it out, I fill it out for you. You take whatever the value of your new home is, whatever the value of your current home, add those together, that's your total collateral. Then you multiply that by 75%. That leaves a little bit of a cushion. There's some equity left over for the bank to keep them comfortable that, if something goes sideways, it's not the 2 homes aren't fully mortgaged to the hilt. Once you have that number multiplied by 0.75, then you subtract out your existing mortgage. That's your max loan amount. And the max loan amount can actually cover all of the purchase price plus all of the fees. So closing costs, prepaid property taxes, the additional fees for just this sort of outside of the box program. If the numbers work out just right, and I'll show you two examples here in a second. If the numbers work out just right, you can truly do this product without any money out of pocket, with the exception of your earnest money deposit and appraisal fees and home inspection fees. So example number one, your current home. It's really cute, right? It's sort of your starter home. It's probably worth about $450,000. You owe about $200,000 on it. So you've got a good chunk of equity, but you don't have that equity in the bank, which is really where you need it. And then you go out shopping with Sophia and you find the one, and it's gorgeous and it's everything that you want it to be. And it's in your kid's school district and everything is perfect. And it's $700,000. So what we do is we take the value of the new home plus the value of the current home. So the total collateral is just a little bit over 1.1 million. We multiply that by 75%. So we come up with 862,000. That's sort of the max that will let you borrow against. We're going to subtract out what you owe on your existing home, 200,000, which means the maximum loan amount you can take to secure these two properties is $662,500. So what that tells me right away is, hey, we owe 700,000 on the dream house, but we can only borrow 662,000. In this situation, I would say that the cross collateral loan is probably maybe not the best option. This could be a good option if you do have that money, $35,000 or so to bridge the gap. But it's maybe not the best option if you don't have that money. It's great if you have to qualify, if you can't qualify for both mortgage payments under a traditional loan. So this is really a case-by-case basis, which you will see on the next slide. So same situation, except your current home is not worth 450, it's worth 550, right? It's a crazy market. I have my son standing outside my window shaking a basketball. So no, I can't turn the lights on. That's funny. Okay, so the current home is worth 550. He knows better. He knows I'm doing this. I told him not to interrupt me. Current house is worth 550 now. So, which is, totally reasonable in this market. You still owe 200,000 against it. So the value of the new home, still at 700,000. Value of the current home is really 550. I missed a 5 in there, but let's pretend that I don't have that typo. Total collateral is 1.25 million multiplied by that same 0.75 for 937 minus what you owe on your mortgage. And look at that. In this case, you could borrow 737,000, which basically means that you can likely finance the entire cost of the home plus all of the fees that would be involved with obtaining this type of mortgage. So that's why I say it's really, really case by case basis. I have worked with many people doing these loans, and every time they find a house, it's a reevaluation. We have to see, okay, is this going to work for this house? What do these numbers look like? So the cross collateral is a unique loan, and it needs to be carefully approached, but it's definitely something that can be done and is probably best used for somebody who has a decent bit of equity in their current home, but maybe can't qualify for both the mortgage on their existing home and the mortgage on the new home. So those are just a couple options. Like I said, every situation is really, really, really unique. There are just no two situations that are different. So it's super important that you talk to a local lender, whether that's me or somebody else. Please make sure that you're talking to somebody who is local to your area, who understands the market and the customs. I've seen so many people who have worked with out-of-state lenders or online lenders, and Portland's a weird, quirky little place. We do things the way we do them. And if you don't understand sort of the customs in our market, that can put you at a little bit of a disadvantage. So there's all my contact information. Hopefully I don't have typos there. No, I look like I'm good there. So Sophia, I will toss it back to you. I'm going to
just a question on the cross collateral. Are you, so obviously those people have to get their homes appraised prior to entering into the, okay.
2 appraisals. Yep. One on the new home, one on the existing home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm glad to know that kids just continue to interact regardless of age.
It does not matter. I really truly thought that at some point, like he's almost 14. Like you would think he would know better. He totally doesn't. Every single time. It is what it is. This is COVID world, right? This is just how we work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The rest of my stuff is just kind of is just about like aesthetics, about paint color, not being afraid to hire someone. This is a house that my clients actually got for under ask because it was this yellow kind of color. And then as soon as it was painted black, it looked so much better. So just ask for resources if you need help with contractors or handy people. This is another home before and after that a color consultant helped with, and it made it look so much nicer. And then just the importance of staging. This is pretty dramatic, but it's a good example. And that's it. Colby, do you have any questions?
I mean, this is so informative. Excuse me. Sorry, my husband's cooking with like pepper or something. No, not at this time, but thank you so much to the both of you. This was so informative.
Yeah,
Took a lot of notes. So thank you. Erin, I'll probably be reaching out to you.
That would be awesome. Anytime. Feel free to, I mean, Sophia can, if you wrote down my number, awesome, but Sophia can connect us. Feel free to text or call or email.
Yeah, I did take your info, but yes,
Cool.
I will reach out. Thank you.
All right, good deal.
All right, thanks guys.
Hey, thank
All right.
you. I will see you
Take
guys
care.
later.
Okay, bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.